What is up, everybody? Welcome to the Action Network podcast presented by BetMGM, the king of sports books. I'm your host, Chris Raybon, and this is your NFL week number 14 betting preview. If you've been listening, you already know we're going to break down our favorite sides, totals, teasers, moneyline underdogs, and of course, crack open our weekly Sunday six-pack of Against the Spread bets. We do it with the help of my co-host, the Prime Minister, Degenerate Nation, Mr. 3-0 last week, Stucky. Good week, bro. What's going on?
Yeah, it was kind of pissed I didn't get the full sweep with the Cardinals Steelers total. Yeah, like all these weather delays, quarterback injury, all these other injuries. And then I knew it was toast when the Steelers got stopped at the 1 on 4th and goal and didn't sneak the ball like the idiots that they are. And only could score 10 points at home against the Cardinals. But yeah, good week. Another good week for the pod. We were in overtime coin flip away from sweeping, getting that elusive 6-0 sweep. But yeah, it's been a good year. I think we're 21-8-1 over the past 5 weeks. So yeah, a little over 72% isn't bad. But as I always say, who cares what happened last week? We're on to next week. Last week was, Tom would say, last week was last week. This week is this week. So let's try to keep it rolling.
I mean, we could leave last week, but unfortunately, when you talk about Tomlin, we're right back to it because this Thursday night game features another spot with the Pittsburgh Steelers getting an egregious amount of points, to be frank. And I say that, obviously knowing that the New England Patriots haven't done anything on offense except, I guess, be offensive for the last, 6 weeks. But I mean, now you're talking about your boy, Mitch Bortles, favored by six, with a total of 30, no less. So, I mean, I guess we have to talk about this game. Where do you want to start?
Yeah, I really have no interest in this game. If I was going to bet it, I would take it's the Patriots or nothing at this number. Needing the Steelers with Mitch Bortles to win by 7+. That's a tall task, but I mean, a lot of uncertainty with quarterbacks on each side. Was last week rock bottom for the Patriots? I don't know. They didn't cover 5.5 in a game. They held a team to 6. So that's
great line by the odds makers. Hey, great line.
That's got to be close to rock bottom, especially against the Chargers, who find ways to lose games like that. For what it's worth, totals this low. It's not going to be a crazy weather game. It's hard. Yeah, I can't remember the last time there was a total this low without crazy weather. But for what it's worth, totals this low around 30. Historically, the unders have done very well. But a lot of those are weather assisted. But yeah, this is your typical Thursday night trash game. I'm glad we're getting it out of the way. I show a little bit of value in the Patriots. I just don't want to put my money behind that team on a short week right now. And I also don't want to back the Steelers that needing to win by a touchdown or more. If you're going to watch this game, I think that I think there's a lot of variance too. I mean, it's going to be a low scoring game. Pat's money line may be worth some couch change. But this is a game I want absolutely no part of. The easiest just scratch off for me of the week. I said, Pat's Steelers 6:30 -6 total 30 on Thursday night. Nope. We're on to Sunday. So I have no interest here. Lean Pats. If you want to bet it, a lot of variance, low total game. Pat's money line, if anything.
I can't knock that. I personally think the Pats might be just on some, 40 chess tank, but keeping everything close with these, holding the opponent to 10 or less, but still losing so that, they keep the
3 in a row. First time it happens to the Chicago Cardinals in 1948.
Yeah. And so what you do is you kind of keep the job and the franchise attractive because you're like, hey, we got this defense that we just get a quarterback, a couple of pieces around him, maybe we could do some things. So they might be playing 40 chess. I don't know if they want to win games, but I will yeah, I'm not gonna have a bet on this game either. I in general don't like betting Thursday. I kind of just it's like the one day I just kind of like to relax and watch a game if I can. We had a great one last week. We might go from the 5th NFL game in league history with no punts to the first NFL game in, well, not the first, but I mean, has there ever been a scoreless tie in 70-minute overtime or, sudden death? I can't remember one, but I mean, this is ugly. But for the trend bettors out there,
yeah, I mean, if you want trivia, it's weird because I actually know this.
Okay,
there's been 70 plus games that have ended 0-0.
Oh wow, I didn't know that.
But it has not happened post merger. Last time it happened was 1943. The reason I know this is because 73 games, I think it was 73 or 74 games have ended 0-0 before 1943. None since. The reason I know this is that I started to look up when the Jets went up 2-0 on the Falcons. I said this game could have 2-0, so I wanted to, where the Falcons went up 2. One of them teams went up 2-0.
Yeah, I think the Jets don't score one.
So I was like, let me see if 2-0 has ever happened. It has not happened post merger. The last time that happened was 1938. It's actually happened 5 times in history, which I was shocked by. So that's the only reason I know that off the top of my head. But yeah, not since the merger.
I got one for you. Who led the league in passing yardage in 1943?
Led the league in passing yardage?
You probably know the person. I don't know if you'll be able to pin the timing, but you've definitely heard of the quarterback.
Sammy Ball.
Close. Sid Luckman. Sammy Ball was second, I believe.
Yeah,
but yeah. There's only so many guys I think Don Hudson is a receiver. Like there's only so many guys once you get past like the 60s they can even name. But yeah. But
Sid Luckman, Chicago Bears.
Yes, sir.
I wonder if he was. They were. Yeah, I think that they were the Bears, then the Cardinals. I think. Or when were they the Cardinals? The Cardinals were the.
Tangent. Yeah, no. I feel like it's always the Cardinals too. We were talking about Nate Poole last week.
Oh, the Cardinals and Bears both were in Chicago at the same time. That's why I always get confused by that.
Oh yeah,
to St. Louis. Yeah. Okay.
I mean, you also had the Chicago Tigers in the inaugural 1920.
Yeah.
But before we move on to the six pack,
this is way more interesting than the Patriots.
It is. But I know some people are listening to this podcast because they do want to bet the Thursday night game. So if you're looking for some trends, kind of alluding to what you mentioned, Patriots. You have a team, an underdog coming off a shutout, 45, 27, and 3, 63% over the last 2 decades. Road underdogs when the total is 38 or less, 91 and 60% since 2009. A non-divisional game where the road team is an underdog and the road team is also on a 5-game or more straight up losing streak. 74, 46, 62% over the last 2 decades. And then, of course, the under, there's a lot of things in favor of that as well. Under when the road team's coming off a shutout is 61%. The primetime unders are 27 and 12 this year, 69%. You have New England unders this year, 9 and 3, 75%. Thursday night unders 40 or below. 24 and 7, 77%, going all the way back to 2006. It doesn't happen very often. So Patriots and the under are the play, which is part of the reason why I think we don't want to play this. It's just like you said, now you're investing money into this god awful Patriots team, and the Steelers. I mean, they have a defense, but that offense. Right back to being exposed again against the Cardinals defense, one of the worst in the league. So let's get out of here and move on to the Week 14 Sunday 6-pack.
Thirsty for action? Let's crack open the Sunday Six-Pack.
All right, we are up to 47, 30, and 1, 61% against the spread with our six-pack picks on the year. You went 3-0 last week. I went 2-1. The Titans could just keep their punter healthy. They probably don't miss the extra point. Might be a different story, but I mean, how many bad beats are we going to take in special teams this year? It's never ending, but can't complain. Can't complain. I mean, 61% with, a bunch of bad beats is, I think,
and look, we're going to have a cold streak. Maybe it's not this year, maybe it's next year. And hopefully when we're not seeing things clearly, the gods pay us back with some undeserved covers. But on to week 14. Can't believe we're at week 14 already.
Yeah, man. It has been flying by. You are up first. Like I said last week, I knew you're right on my heels. My lead's down to 1. For all those who aren't familiar with our scoring system, the way we score it, 2 points each for our top 2 picks, 1 point for the third, 1 point for our favorite total, which we'll do in the next segment. And then if you sweep all of them, you will get a bonus point as well. You're up first for week 14. Where are you going with you first?
For my first pick of the week 14 Sunday six-pack, I'm going with the Cleveland Browns -3, -120 right now at BetMGM. We'll grade it there. Doesn't really matter for the contest. Look, I know that the total is super low. There's going to be some weather. For what it's worth, I'm going to be here. I'm going to be at this game, going up to my annual trip to visit my friend Scott and some other friends up in Cleveland. I usually go for Ravens Browns, which is always in December, but this year it wasn't, and I have too much going on with college football. But there's only one college football game this weekend. Going up there, I said, look, bro, let me pick another spot on the calendar. This made sense with only Army Navy. Browns, Jags. I expected both teams in the playoff mix. They are. I didn't expect it to be, most likely, CJ Beathard versus Joe Flacco and torrential downpour and maybe 20 to 30 mile an hour winds. So might have picked one of the worst. At least it's not Pat Steelers. And at least there's a bar behind where we're sitting where I'll be watching most of the other games, including the Ravens. But I do have money on this game. I like the Browns here for a number of reasons. One, short week for the Jags. A little bit of a factor late in the year, too. It's kind of a little bit more detrimental. But the injuries they suffered. I don't expect Trevor Lawrence to play with that ankle sprain. If he does, good luck. He's going to be other quarterbacks who have tried to play with a high ankle sprain. It has not gone well in a short week. I don't think he's going to play. And if he does, he's not mobile. That's how teams have been beating the Browns a bit lately, moving their quarterback around. And that Trevor Lawrence, I'd have it like a 6-point downgrade to CJ Beathard, but he wasn't the only injury. Christian Kirk is now out. Walker Little, they already lost Cam Robinson, who's on IR tackle. Walker Little, left tackle, went out. You lost your nose tackle, Fadakasi. They lost, Trey Hendon got hurt. Gregory Jr. they were needing in there. He got hurt. Andre Sisco got hurt, came back in. The point is they had a ton of injuries, impactful ones. And what does that mean? You're going to get CJ Beathard in there. He's, not the worst backup in the world, knows the system, but he's not mobile. That's the biggest thing here. Bad offensive line now against that Cleveland defensive line. And that Cleveland defense at home is, I don't know what it is. Is it the crowd, the noise? They're allowing, I don't think I've ever seen this big of splits this late in the year. 10 points per game at home, 30.7 on the road. I mean, 10 is shocking, but for a team that's allowing 10 at home to allow 30 on the road is also very shocking. But I mentioned all the injuries for the Browns. For the Jags. The Browns will be much healthier this week. Goodwin potentially could be back with Tillman and Bell, because I don't think Cooper's going to go with a concussion, although it seems like more guys, you saw Olave go last week, are. But what does that mean? I think it's going to be Joe Flacco. It could still be DTR. But Flacco's looked the best. I mean, he looked pretty decent. His arm still looks good. He could throw the deep ball. And he loves him. He loves himself some more. I think Moore had 250 air yards last week, the most of any wide receiver in any game this year. deep balls with the wind, and Flacco's been good in the wind throughout his career, but deep balls in the wind against this beat up and bad secondary, what is that going to lead to? Some PIs. That's the path to success for the Browns offense. But most importantly, I just do not see, assuming that Trevor Lawrence is out, which I'm pretty confident that he will be. I don't know how the Jags will score with Beathard, without Kirk, against this D-line. It looks like Denzel Ward's going to be back, which is big. He's kind of the key to that defense. Allows them to do so much. So, yeah, give me the Browns laying a field goal at home. I think they win let's call it, I would lean under too, even at this low number. But I'll call it they're going to win 17-6 is what I'm feeling. And for what it's worth, this is pretty crazy because this is against the close. And you got to remember think about where this total was. There's been some injuries, but these weather totals always get hit. They always get hit and they come down. This is against the close. NFL games with 10+ mile an hour winds at kickoff, which this certainly will be. 18-5-1 to the under this year, going under by 5 points per game. Last 3 seasons, 110-55-1. It's insane. One of the most efficient markets in the world. They don't go low enough. But so this should be super low scoring. I just trust the Browns defense more, and I trust the Browns offense more with the injuries that the Jags have and CJ Beathard at the helm. Browns defense, best unit on the field by far in this game now. Give me Cleveland -3.
Yeah, that seems to be the handicap with Cleveland. Is they're one of those teams that just night and day, home and road, and obviously some injuries contributed to that on defense. But it looks like they're going to be healthy at least defensively. Obviously losing Cooper, not ideal, but CJ Beathard with Calvin Ridley's already been kind of touch and go this year. He's been struggling. So Kirk's been the guy that's been consistent. I know they have Zay Jones back in Washington. Made some noise last week, but yeah, if Cleveland's defense is healthy and plays like it did earlier in the year at home, the Jaguars probably aren't getting to double digits. Like you said, it's going to be like a 13-6 type of situation. So I can't knock it there. And I would lean under as well. Plus,
I can run on the field if need be.
Please do, because I don't know how entertaining that game is going to be. Just Joe Flacco, the ghost of Joe Flacco, chucking it into wind gusts without his top receiver. And
I will say, I went to on the podcast, you joke about my recent Browns Ravens bad luck and bad calls. I cashed 7 straight bets in Cleveland going there, betting the Ravens. Flacco owned Cleveland, and we would never lose there. So I've had a lot of success backing Flacco in that stadium in my life. So hopefully it works with him on the other team.
Well, is he getting paid the vet minimum? Do you know? Is he?
I don't know.
It's probably not much more than that. Cause it's just hilarious if it were to be Joe Flacco after all this, Deshaun Watson, fully guaranteed contract, all the massages, all the injuries, all the missed time. If it were Joe Flacco getting, close to the league minimum, that leads them to the playoffs.
Hilarious. Yeah, he's got to be making the league minimum, I would imagine.
And he's what? Their fourth starter of the year too?
Yep.
Crazy.
Yep.
All right. For my first pick of the Week 14 Sunday 6-pack and the second overall, I'm going with the Carolina Panthers plus 5.5 at the New Orleans Saints. And I'm a man of my word.
Panthers whisperer is back.
I'm a man of my word. I said it all year. Super down on this Panther team. I didn't bet on them until they cashed my win total under. They cashed it at the week after Thanksgiving. Bet them last week. They came through with the cover late. I mean, had a chance to win that game, but we can't ask for too much here. But now we're getting another one of these dead number spreads that I think is too high against another one of these shaky NFC South opponents. And I think we both agreed earlier in the year too that this New Orleans Saints team was going to be overrated just because they were playing in a bad division. But you're starting to see the bottom come out of the Saint team. I mean, there's drama, there's bickering, internally, there's guys tweeting things. The coach is getting more and more fed up, and it's kind of losing his cool, with the media. And that's kind of what I expected with the Saint team. But let's focus on the field. Yeah, I said it last week. The Panthers really, and the Panthers, I think an article came out in The Athletic about all the things that were going wrong with the Panthers, but I wouldn't let that scare you away because we already knew the Panthers were at rock bottom. Now the Saints might end up there because if they don't win this division where everyone stinks, it's going to be a problem for them. But on defense, the Panthers improving. Mentioned it last week. Yeah, healthier. And since the bye, this defense has been an above average unit. Since the week 7 bye, Carolina 9th in EPA per play if you exclude turnovers, which you make a good point. That tends to create massive swings in EPA. Also 8th in success rate. New Orleans, by the way, over that span, 28th on defense. So New Orleans, all that talk about, they don't allow 20 points. Well, their defense not as healthy, and it's starting to get exposed. But
no Lattimore hurts.
Yeah, that's obviously the bigger one. You also got Pete Werner's on the injury report. Marcus Mays banged up. It wasn't able to go last week. Malcolm Roach, defensive tackle, banged up as well. But for the Panthers, and this, I feel like this is deja vu. Because I feel like we were sitting here last year talking about the same thing. J.C. Horn missed most of the year. He only played in 2 games. Their best cornerback and one of the better cornerbacks in the league, he's back. He came back last week. He was on a pitch count, but he didn't miss a beat. Graded out. He would be like top 5 over a 90 grade from PFF in his first game back. And remember, he came back last year around midseason. He missed a couple games. Carolina immediately went 7-3 right after when Horn came back. And yeah, it was also the coach turnover and things like that. But Horn did help improve that defense, and I think he's going to do the same thing here because the Saints right now, Shaheed is banged up, so the Saints really have one guy on the perimeter that you have to account for at the moment, and that's Chris Olave. I know your boy Lynn Bowden is there as well, but realistically, Chris Olave is the main threat, over 100 yards last week. J.C. Horn does have the ability to, limit him. And Carolina is now 8-4 against the spread in the last 12 games that J.C. Horn was active. Only been active for 2 this year, and then also the last 10 last year. And then you look at the Saint offense, and Derek Carr's in the concussion protocol. Derek Carr wasn't playing well anyway. Michael Thomas is on the injured reserve. He was catching 5 balls a game. Rashid Shaheed, their most explosive receiver, is dealing with a soft tissue injury, lower body soft tissue injury. So even if he does gut it out and suit up, I don't think he's going to be as explosive as he's been because, it's late in the year. That's what happens with these kind of injuries. So now you're looking at Jameis Winston likely to start. Well, we know we love to fade Jameis Winston when he is a favorite. Doesn't happen often, but it happens enough. And this is a big one. I mean, we're talking about 5.5 points. Anything more than a field goal, I mean, it's, we got Mitch Bortles favored by 6 this week. Jameis favored by 5.5. I mean, it's ugly. But Jameis, historically 8-19 against the spread as a favorite. That is just 30%. And these are, 2 poorly coached teams. The Saints might even be more poorly coached now that, Frank Reich is out of the picture for the Panthers. Dennis Allen, as a favorite, has happened even less than Jameis Winston has been a favorite, amazingly. But in his career, Dennis Allen, 22 times now in the coach team, has been a favorite. He's covered 5, 24% against the spread, 5-16-1, failing to cover by an average of 4.7 points per game. This season, Saints have been favored 10 times. Amazingly. 10 times the Saints have been favored. They've covered once. Once. There's only 2 teams with worse against the spread records than the Panthers. The Patriots and the New Orleans Saints. So give me, for the second week in a row, Carolina against this god-awful NFC South.
Completely agree. No notes to add. Jameis is a fave. Undervalued Panthers team. I agree. I think that's the side. Wouldn't be shocked if he won outright. Big games this weekend. We'll get to Falcons later, but for our Falcons division future, if the Panthers can pull this off and the Falcons win, big separation, which I didn't think would be possible in this division with couple game lead.
Don't ever doubt the terribleness of Dennis Allen and Derek Carr. Don't ever doubt that.
Yeah.
Don't ever.
All right, for my second pick and the third overall of the Week 14 Sunday six-pack, I'm going with the Chicago Bears plus 3.5 against the Detroit Lions. Back to the well. I think this is the second time that I've played the Bears in the history of this podcast. The first was 2 weeks ago against the Lions. And again, they should have won. I think they were up 12 with 4 minutes to go in the game and somehow lost. But good spot here. Bears off of a bye, like Lions' second straight road game. And weather. What happens? There's going to be maybe rain. There's going to be wind. It's outdoors in December. What does that mean? We get to fade Jared Goff, the pumpkin. Jared Goff, everyone talks about his great against the spread record. He's 30-15 against the spread indoors, 500 outdoors. And that doesn't account for when there's conditions. 64% of his picks, 75% of his fumbles have come outdoors. He's 1-6 against the spread outdoors in December when temperatures are less than 50. His teams are averaging 14 points per game. Those are kind of the peripheral reasons why I like this, but I also like what I'm seeing on the field for the Bears. Talked about this 2 weeks ago. They're playing much better of late. They should have won in Detroit. How about, let's just look at these defenses since week 7. EPA per play, Bears 6th. Lions 29th. Success rate, Bears 8th. Lions 31st. So Bears, by the way, their offense, top 10 success rate over that stretch. Fields is progressing. The offensive line pieces are there. The defense got healthier in the secondary. I mean, Jalen Johnson is playing out of his mind. Can take away a receiver on that end, even if Goff can get the ball there. But you added Sweat, which can give you a little bit more pressure. And then, the Bears are basically fully healthy now, and the Lions are not. I'd be shocked if Frank Ragnow plays. That's huge to their run game, and that's what they're going to need here in these conditions. And I don't think people know how big of a loss Lee McNeil is. I know that Hutchinson's the household name, and Lee McNeil is their best defender. He's out. That's huge in the middle. That will allow the Bears to run the ball. Alex Anzalone might still be out. Lions struggle with mobile quarterbacks. This defense is just bad, and you lost your best piece in the middle. I love the way that the Bears are trending. Don't love the way that the Lions are trending. Catching over a field goal at home in a division game with pumpkin Goff all day. Give me the Bears.
Yeah, love your point on Lee McNeil. I think it was Joe Buck and Aikman talking about that. Yeah, the Bears were on Monday night a couple of weeks ago against the Vikings, and they were talking about that too. How real ones know Lee McNeil is kind of the heart of that line D. So if he's out, that's a big loss for them.
And Ragnow, you got your two center pieces on both sides.
Yeah, on both sides of the trenches, right?
Yeah, but in a game where there's going to be weather, that's huge.
And love the fate of the Jared Goff splits as well. I started the week, with Kerner on the Fantasy Flex Pod. On our projections pod right here on this channel. So check that out if you're interested in fantasy DFS. Just props, all that. But we pick a quarterback we're high and low on, and the guy I was low on this week, Jared Goff. In my projection model, I was kind of surprised for a second to because he's averaging about 7.5 yards an attempt, about 275 yards per game. And my model to start the week, it had him at 250 yards and 7 flat. And I'm like, wait, what's going on? And I'm like, oh, it's Goff outside. And then I realized that I was already accounting for it. But you look at it, even this year alone, indoor, 8.1 yards per attempt, outdoor, 6.9. Indoor, 2.3 total touchdowns per game, outdoor, 1 total touchdown per game. Career with Detroit, indoor, 7.4 yards an attempt, outdoor, 6.9. Indoor, 5.3% touchdown percentage, outdoor, 2.8. His touchdown rate literally has gotten cut in half of just about when going indoor to outdoor. And I'm not even splitting it by, I could, filter it out further and take out. Yeah, right. This is just raw, indoor, outdoor splits. Count with counting any retractable roof stadium as an indoor. And it's very evident that he's a completely different quarterback. And, you're talking about winds that could get upwards of 20 miles per hour. You're talking about some rain here. So I agree with this. And I guess the Lions are taking money because I think for a while it was at 3. And now the hook is back. But I don't really get it. I think Goff has not been playing well or as well as of late. So and
it's also going to
are
be
sleeping on Bears
25 to 30 degrees. It's going to be below freezing. G's not been good at small hands. He just throws them to the ground like every play. It's really sad to watch. But by the way, speaking of yards, the next time we're together, either dinner or barbell, you owe me. I forgot to bring it up because Kenny Pickett finished 104 yards against the Browns that game. But
automatic L on that one.
I coached you into it, to be fair.
Yeah. I mean, I'll happily oblige. But for my second pick, 4th overall of the week 14 Sunday 6-pack, I'm going with the Houston Texans -4 at the New York Jets. And first, I got to say, pour one out for my guy Tank Dell. I mean, just a devastating injury to lose a guy like that. Yeah, I mean, the Texans just cannot get their top 4 wideouts healthy. But I gotta go. I gotta keep. I think you've been doing it as well. Just gonna keep going back. We've both been kind of riding the Texans lately. I'm gonna keep going back to the well and fading this Jets team here. And the reason I'm doing it is actually a little bit different than I think the reasons we've been backing the Texans in the past. So obviously, CJ Stroud is great. This Jet defense is also great. It's a top 5 defense. He lost his best receiver. Now Nico Collins has been balling, and Brown's had some big games. You still got Woods. You got some young guys. So, the Texans offense is not sunk or anything, but Dell is a big loss, obviously. But what I think is undervalued, because you're always looking for, what is the market not accounting for when you're trying to find an edge. I think now the biggest thing that's undervalued is the Houston defense. And I think eventually Houston's going to blow somebody out at some point. We keep waiting for it, and they keep playing in these close games. And I think it might happen this week, but not because of their offense. I think their offense just has to be able to, take advantage of some short fields and, get a few points on it, get to double digits. If you can get to double digits, I don't know if the Jets are going to score more than a couple of field goals here. So the Texans could get to 13 or so. That might be enough. And here's why. Houston's defense was pretty bad for a good part of the year. But we know they have a defensive head coach in DeMeco Ryans. So you figure once, guys got healthy, they would be able to turn it around. And I think they're coming along, because you look at their cornerbacks now, all 3 of their starting corners grade out in the top 25 at PFF among over 100, about 120 qualifiers. Steven Nelson is 25th. Derek Stingley is 17th. And then Desmond King, who they just re-signed and reinserted into the lineup in the slot, he would grade 18th if he had enough snaps to qualify. And it's not just a small sample thing, because he was the number 20 cornerback last season. So he kind of picked up where he left off. But Stingley's been really impressive. He came back 4 games ago. That's great. Yeah, he came back 4 games ago. He's got a pick in each of his last 3 games, 4 picks in total over his last 3 games. He's allowing just 57% of the passes into his coverage to be completed, and he's broken up or intercepted just under 30% of the targets into his coverage. Now, for the Jets team, everything's getting worse for this Jets offense. I mean, Garrett Wilson is their only receiver, but now they're trying to put some young guys in there, and like Brownlee got hurt. Then they had to like reinsert Lazard after healthy scratching him. If Brownlee misses, you might have to bring back Cobb to be active again. I think he has 3 catches all year. So CJ Uzoma, your blocking tight end, went down. Your rookie Abanikanda, who I thought was going to get some playing time. They played him in one game, and I don't know what happened. I guess they didn't like what they saw, and they're like, oh, hey, let's go give more carries to Dalvin Cook. So now they gave 9 carries to Dalvin Cook last week. That was their grand plan to, get things back going in the right direction. Dalvin Cook is obviously washed. Breece Hall can't get anything done on the ground, which, if you listen to me, talk about fantasy, I was down on him before the season because he could break a few long runs, but when he doesn't, it's poverty for him. I think he had 16 yards on 13 carries in his last game. And this Houston defense is number 6 in the league in fewest explosive runs allowed. That's really the only avenue the Jets have to success, is getting one of those 80-yard Breece Hall big plays, because I already mentioned the corners they might not be like Sauce Gardner and elite, but Stingley's same kind of pedigree, and all the corners are playing very, very well. So I don't think you're going to get anything through the air with Zach Wilson. And you have a top 6 run defense in terms of limiting explosives. Jets are on their 9th offensive line combination, I believe it is. They're giving up the 2nd most pressures. And another thing I think was happening with this Houston defense is their pass rush is starting to come along as well. Will Anderson Jr., number 3 overall pick. Now he's up to a top 15 edge rusher in terms of how he's grading out. He's top 6 among edge rushers in quarterback hits. He's top 8 in run stops. And Greenard on the other side has also been playing really well. He's already tied his career high with 8 sacks. So they're starting to get their pass rush in order. And yeah, Zach Wilson, like, reluctant to start. And this could be literally the last chance he ever gets to start, and he's reluctant to start. I mean, this Jet.
Yeah, that's where this could get ugly, because if he throws a pick early, you obviously know his confidence already shaken. Then you're going to get boos, and then
you're going to get Rippin. You're going to get Rippin or Simeon.
Rippin might actually be worse than Wilson, which is hard to do.
I mean, I think they are. So this line was sitting around 5.5 until Wilson got ruled in, and then it moved to 4. Which, I mean, it sounds crazy, but it's not that egregious, because I mean, Boyle and all these other guys.
Yeah, they're the worst. It's also not a huge move. If you're not moving across the key.
Yeah, you're not. But I mean, just think about that. Zach Wilson is an upgrade on somebody. But that's the thing. It's like you're giving him an upgrade, but do we even get Zach Wilson for 4 quarters? Probably not. Just given what's going on here. And I mean, the Jets I don't know if they'll outwardly say it, but it almost feels like they're in tank mode at this point. I mean, there's no reason to not play your, probably your 2nd most explosive running back over Dalvin and increase Dalvin Cook's role again. Like, I don't know what they're doing, but just listen to this. So mentioned Houston, they can cover now. They got a pass rush now. Jets offensive line has been terrible. And you have the worst 3rd down and red zone offense in the league, 32nd in both for the Jets, right? So that's Nathaniel Hackett in charge of the worst 3rd down offense, I think in some time too. Like, they're 23%.
Like 23%.
Yeah, they're. But listen to this: Nathaniel Hackett, worst 3rd down offense this year. Nathaniel Hackett with the Broncos last year, worst 3rd down offense. So you're talking about a stretch of, you got fired with what, 2 games remaining? So you're talking about a stretch of 27 straight games and counting that the Jets offensive coordinator, Nathaniel Hackett, who for some reason Aaron Rodgers loves, probably because he doesn't do a goddamn thing unless Rodgers do everything. 27 straight games, Nathaniel Hackett has led a historically futile third down offense with two completely different quarterbacks, teams, coaching staffs, offensive lines, and offenses. Like that is just unbelievable. And he might even be back. He might be back again next year if they want to give him a mulligan. So for the Rodgers injury. So I think at this point, it is going to be a struggle for Houston. It might be, Houston always seems to be a sweat, but I don't think this Jet offense can score, and I think the Houston defense is underrated. And so I think they're realistically two good defenses in this game, and I'm getting a borderline elite quarterback, even if he doesn't have his best receiver, still getting a borderline elite quarterback versus one of the worst quarterbacks and one of the worst coordinators maybe in the history of football. Zach Wilson as an underdog of less than 6 points, or as a favorite, has failed to cover in 8 of his last 9 games. Give me the Texans -4.
No, I have no real strong feel here, but I want no part of the Jets, so it's Texans or nothing. For my third pick, but I should say I do think it could go sideways quick for the Jets if the Texans get out to a fast start and they turn Wilson over. It could get ugly quick. For my third and final pick and the 5th overall of the Week 14 Sunday 6-pack, I'm going with the Seattle Seahawks plus 10.5 at the San Francisco 49ers. Does that, when I said it, if you're listening or watching, if you're watching, by the way, hit that subscribe, like button. That helps us out. But did it feel, does that sound painful to you, fading the 49ers right now? Good. That's how I like to bet the NFL. A lot of times the sides that are going to be on it hurts. You don't want to do it. But that's usually when you're buying low on a team or selling high, which is my overarching principle when I'm betting the NFL. Then you throw in some situations, some matchups, and some other factors to consider. But I think this is the very peak of the market on the 49ers. You're having some odds makers come out and say they're 5 or 6 points better than everyone else. We've seen this story, countless times over the past decade. This team's unstoppable. It's the NFL still. This is the divisional game still. And it's a great spot. You have the 49ers, they got their playoff revenge. They're in Philly. They're coming across the country now, riding high. They're playing a Seattle team that's has extra rest, playing for their season. You're going to get Seattle's best effort here. It's the classic sell high, buy low on both fronts. And for what it's worth, Pete Carroll, he doesn't get talked enough as a dog, but he always gets his team up for these spots. He promised everyone they're going to make the playoffs. He promised everyone that they're going to show up this week. I trust that they will. Pete Carroll's a dog, 50-33-3, 60.2%, 20-12 in division. As an underdog, he's the second most profitable coach behind Mike Tomlin among 148 over the past 20 years. Division road dogs over 10 points over the past 20 years, 94-74-3, 56%. Teams laying double digits after 4+ straight wins, right? Who wants to fade these teams? They've won 4 straight. Now they're laying double digits, presumably against a team they're much better at. 61-81 against the spread, 43.3% over the past 20 years. All that just to provide context to the buy low, sell high here. Hold your nose. It's not the worst matchup for Geno Smith. I don't think he was fully healthy in their first meeting, but how San Fran likes to play, they don't blitz. They don't play a ton of man. I think you'll get Seattle's best effort here. 49ers might come out a little bit flat. I think this is a bit too many points in this divisional matchup. Give me Seattle.
Yeah, it's absolutely the correct spot for Seattle. I did think about it. The only thing that makes me a little bit, and I mean, obviously, like you said, you're going to be an easy bet in these spots, is I do think, like, in general, San Francisco just matches up very well with Seattle. Loved what I saw out of Seattle to stay close with Dallas last week. So they obviously shown they can hang with elite teams. But now can they do it? Can they do it in this one, which they've really just never been close, frankly. But I'll give you another Pete Carroll trend that's, I think, even better than the ones you mentioned. Pete Carroll, off a multi-game losing streak in his career, 21-5 against the spread, 81%, 54% ROI. So this is absolutely a Seahawks spot. I mean, hey, you're getting the hook, so you could get a 31-21
in a blowout,
yeah, right,
and score late
exactly.
too.
exactly.
But I think Seattle's going to get 49ers a game. I do. I think this will be close at the end. Just a little gut feel, but I think it's too many points.
Yeah, long rest too. Long rest
Yep.
for Seattle.
Well,
so
yep.
If they're gonna do it, this is
their season.
Yeah, they have. Yeah, exactly. And speaking of team seasons, another team, it's the opposite. They're on short rest, but every game at this point is really for their season. For my third and final pick, the 6th overall of the week 14 Sunday 6-pack, I'm going with the Cincinnati Bengals +1 at home against the Indianapolis Colts. And this is it's kind of one of those bets. It's almost like a money line dog bet in a way where there's just some uncertainty here. And I'm getting, a dog at home for two teams that I think are fairly evenly matched. And the thing about Jake Browning starting for this Bengal team, and obviously showed well on Monday night against the Jaguars. I know Lawrence got hurt, but still a solid Jaguar squad. But there's a fair chance that Browning is better than Gardner Minshew. And if that's the case, then this Bengal team is even more undervalued than, a point or two, because so far it's obviously a small sample and we've seen these backup quarterbacks flame out, which could be true of Minshew as well. But, Minshew top 5 in turnover worthy play rate, 5.2%, Browning 3.1%, on target percentage, Minshew 73%, Browning 82%. Under pressure, Minshew passer rating 68, Browning passer rating under pressure 99. I could keep going. You look at weapons, Michael Pittman having an amazing year, but Jamar Chase still better than Michael Pittman. T. Higgins better than Alec Pierce. Probably give Josh Downs the edge over Boyd, but Downs has been a little banged up as of late. You're missing Jonathan Taylor in this spot. He just had surgery on his thumb, while the Bengals may have found something with their rookie Chase Brown to take some of the pressure off Mixon. He ran 9 times for 61 yards in his first extended action. The Bengals defense is not good, but again, you have a turnover prone quarterback. You're at home. You're going against a turnover prone quarterback. You're at home. You have better weapons, and you probably have the better quarterback. And the Colts get Grover Stewart back. That should help their run defense. But again, that's not a major thing against the Bengals. But I think Brown does give them some explosiveness to kind of combat that Colts defense. And beyond that, it's just a very mediocre Colts team and a Bengals team that actually, offensively does have a pretty explosive supporting cast if Browning can continue doing what he does and, completing 32 out of 37 passes. So I'm going to take my chances here because I do think that the market might be, overrating this Colts team. Really lucky to extend that winning streak to 4 games with the Titans, blowing the lead, the punter getting hurt, which probably cost them that extra point, which could have, prevented the game from going to overtime in the first place. So, this 4-game winning streak, let's look at who let's look at who the Colts have beat. The Carolina Panthers, where it would have been a tie game, if not for 2 Bryce Young pick sixes. They won 27-13. They beat the Patriots 10-6. Should have lost that game if Matt Jones literally didn't trip over himself and throw a pick when there was a wide open man in the end zone. One of the worst picks you'll ever see of all time. Unforced error. They beat the Bucs 27-20. Bucs have been banged up on defense, and then they get lucky against the Titans and come back in overtime and win at the end of that game when the Titans punter goes down and they screw up an extra point. So I give the Colts props for taking care of business, but I'm not impressed with this Colts team in the slightest. And I think there might be some unrealized upside for Browning here. Might be able to go on like a 2-3 game kind of Josh Dobbs like streak with these weapons before he comes back down to earth. So I want to kind of catch that catch that while I still can. He's averaging over 8 yards an attempt right now. Give me the Bengals as short home dogs.
Yeah, Colts are frauds. Yeah, I'm looking to fade them the rest of the way. I'll have more on this game later.
All right, that's gonna wrap our Week 14 6-pack. Stuck has the Browns -3, Bears +3.5, Seahawks +10.5, Panthers +5.5, Texans -4, and Bengals +1. Some interesting quarterbacks. You have Flacco, Fields, and Geno. So I mean, not the best, but not the worst. And then I have the top two picks, Bryce Young and Stroud, and then the wild card, Jake Browning, who ironically, Jake Browning is just raw numbers. And I know it's only been a couple games, but remember how badly Joe Burrow started the year? So like Jake Browning's efficiency numbers are just like night and day ahead of Burrow right now, which is, I mean, that's the kind of year it's been with the NFL and these backup quarterbacks. So, just trying to get ahead of this, and the Colts aren't, they've beaten, they've got 4 of the least impressive wins you could possibly have on a 4-game winning streak. So that is going to wrap it for the Week 14 Sunday 6-pack. Next up is our Coach's Pep Talk. This week's Pep Talk comes to us from an actual Coach's Pep Talk. This is former Buffalo Bill head coach Lou Saban, captured in the locker room way back in 1974.
We're at the crossroads, and no question about that. But it's not the end of the world. I just want us to do a job that we're capable of doing. If we die, we die together. You can get it done. You can get it done. What's more, you gotta get it done. Let's go.
We're going to dedicate this one to the Carolina Panthers. If we die, we die, but we riding with them 2nd week in a row. So best of luck to, who was it, Chris Tabor and Thomas Brown and Bryce Young and Brian Burns. Try not to punch somebody this time, and let's get this covered. And that wins to help our Falcons' future. Okay. Now it's time for our favorite total of the week. All right, so last week, Pittsburgh, Arizona did not get there for us. New England Chargers was not even a sweat. So this week, interestingly, I don't know if we've done this before, but we're just going to kind of ride, like either, but we're both getting a point or neither of us are getting a point because we both like the same total. And
we only like one total, and we don't want to get
exactly.
So.
Yeah, it's a wonky week. Everyone's looking to bet unders and take all these, no touchdowns and under 7.5 point, all these alt lines. But I mean, come on, like the market is trying to goad you into this. We're also recording this, 4 days out. We don't know the true forecast.
The weather could change a lot,
right?
Yeah.
So what we're doing, I think we're kind of on the same page here, and I'll let you break it down more. But it's the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Atlanta Falcons over 39.5. From my perspective, I like it because, number one, it's indoors and you're getting a low total. You have a Falcon squad that plays a lot better. Desmond Ridder plays a lot better at home. I believe only one of his home starts has landed below 39. So shop around, see if you can get the 39 flat. That would obviously help, but Ritter's just, for whatever reason, and this is going back to college, high school even, he's just always been better at home. But with the Falcons, you had a let's see, what did you have? You had to land on 39 flat against the Saints, but that the kicker missed a couple field goals there, so that should have been well over. Atlanta Washington in Atlanta got to 40. Atlanta Minnesota was in the 50s. Atlanta Houston got to 40. Atlanta Green Bay got to 49. The Panthers were the one that didn't. Atlanta Tampa Bay at the end of last year got to 47. And Ritter's first home start also got to 39. So 39 is kind of the floor more so than I think the median when the Falcons are at home. The Bucs defense has been a bottom 5 unit since their week 5 bye. We've talked about this last week. A lot of guys probably aren't healthy. Guys did return to practice. I think David is back at practice, but I don't think Carlton Davis and Jamel Dean are fully healthy, even if they're on the field. And the Bucs lost a ton of linebackers. Falcons also lost AJ Terrell in the concussion protocol, so he is very iffy. Most guys aren't playing when they get it on the protocol. You got Mike Evans, you got Bijan Robinson starting to come into his own. Offenses are healthy for the most part, and this Falcon defense is also in DVOA a bottom 8 unit. So a lot to like here with the over in this one. What are you seeing in this one?
Yeah, I think this is way too low. Indoor game. When these two teams played earlier this year, outdoors, it was 16-13. But there was 730 total yards of offense. Rittered a bunch. The teams went 1 of 7 in the red zone with 5 turnovers. There should have been. They should have scored at least 40 points in that game.
I remember Baker missing like a wide open touchdown at one point.
Falcons
Ritter fumbled right at like the 1-inch line too.
Twice.
Fumbled a touchdown. Yeah, twice.
There was 2 fumbles at the one. The Falcons averaged 6.3 yards per play in that game. The Bucs averaged 5.1. As you mentioned, Terrell's done. Nate Lamon's probably hurt. He's been pretty good for them. Grady Jarrett is out for the year. You're missing some key pieces now on that defense. The Bucs D is atrocious. I mean, it is. I don't know what's going on outside of Vita Vea and oh my God, Winfield. No one is playing well. And I actually think that Devin White's going to come back this week, which is a disaster. He's not getting re-signed. He's been arguably the worst linebacker in the NFL, and Todd Bowles won't sit him. I mean, last week, I would argue that J.J. Russell, a practice squad player, replaced him, had a better game than Devin White has had all year, and he's horrendous. He's been horrendous against the run. I think it's actually going to hurt them when he comes back. But there's also and the Falcons play fast, Bucs middle of the road. There's also some regression here that should help both offenses. Atlanta's defense, 33% opponent third down conversion rate. That's number 2. 30 in the league. No, 37% red zone touchdown percentage. That's number 1 in the league. This isn't a top 2 defense. And then Tampa's D's 4th in red zone touchdown percentage. And both offenses have been unlucky in the red zone if you look at some advanced metrics. So I think this is the game where a lot of potential where any red zone trip is going to turn into 7s instead of 3s. Yeah, I like the over here.
All right. So yeah, we're riding with the same total. Bucs, Falcons over 39.5. Yeah, I think there should be closer to 42, like 41.5, 42. So if you're listening to this later in the week, even at 41, I wouldn't hesitate. Once you get above 41, then a little bit key number, but anything 41 or below, hammer it. Now it's time for our favorite teaser of week 14. All right, this is one of those weeks where the slate is kind of a little bit cut and dried for us. I think we're going with the same teaser as well. Ravens teasing them down from 7 to 1, and the Bills up from 2.5 to 8.5. So talk about those two.
Yeah, classic teasers here. Teasing through 3 and 7. If you want some more info on teasers, it's every week, and you're new to the show, just Google Stuckey teaser guide, and I go through all the math. But yeah, I think Ravens at home off the bye in weather, the better run defense against a finesse Rams team is the side. Harbaugh generally very good off the bye as well. I think the Rams are just outclassed here. They've had a good season, but I mean, all their wins have come against like the Cardinals and the Seahawks, and then the backup Browns last week. This is still a bad D. Ravens, I think, come out focused, get it done at home, better built for the conditions that you'll see there, with the Rams coming across the country as well. And then the Bills, yeah, I think I played some Bills Super Bowl today, 50-1, which should be a fun sweat. Small bet, and sometimes I put a bet in. Because, I mean, if the Bills get into the playoffs, and I think they do from everything that I've been looking at, but I would love that 51 in my pocket. But also part of it is a small bet is entertainment value. I'm going to get a sweat out of rooting for the playoff race for every game. Like I even care about the Steelers Patriots now, rooting for the Steelers to lose. But Bills off a bye here. I don't trust the Chiefs offense to win with margin. Right now, it's just they're broken. Bills are right there with them. Happily take Josh Allen and this Bills team in a desperation spot off the bye. I think they win outright. So I wanted to get 3.5. Market was never going to let it get there. So yeah, Bills Ravens.
Yeah, I was just about to say, we know how this script goes with Bills Chiefs. The Bills go to Kansas City in the regular season and win, and then get their hopes up for the playoffs, get their fans' hopes up, and then lose in heartbreaking fashion in the playoffs. That's just how it goes with Bills Chiefs. So this, I'm pretty sure
the only time, by the way, I've ever faded Mahomes as a field goal favorite or below is against the Bills multiple times.
Yeah. Let's and speaking of which, we'll go to our money line dog in a minute, but Ravens down to 1, Bills up to 8.5. Going with our teaser. Both of us are going with our teaser. And as a reminder, the Action Network podcast is presented by BetMGM. Use bonus code ACTION, ACTION, when signing up to get up to $1,500 paid back in bonus bets if your first bet loses. For new users in Arizona, Colorado, Illinois, Indiana, Iowa, Kentucky, Louisiana, Maryland, Massachusetts, Michigan, New Jersey, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Tennessee, Virginia, West Virginia, and Wyoming. Terms and conditions apply. Must be 21 or older. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Now it's time for our Underdog Moneyline Parlay. Where are you going this week, Stuck?
Let's go back to one of your picks. Let's go with the Bengals. Small dog here. Browning Nation. It's really just a fate of the Colts, though. A fraud. Laying points on the road as they should not be. I think that the Bengals are dumb for winning, but it's too early this season. You can't just purposely lose, but it's going to hurt them next year. You have Burrows out for the year. Your only goal should be draft positioning and guarantee that 4th place schedule. That's huge in the AFC. That both of them are at risk now, but they're not going to try to lose. So, and the Colts are a fraud. So I think the Bengals win.
I mean, hey, Browning keeps averaging over 8 yards an attempt with the mess of the AFC all of a sudden. They probably have some confidence. So they're probably back into it. So can't knock it. But
yeah, they win. They're right back in the mix.
Exactly.
And they're not going to win anything is my point, but they could get to the playoffs. Yep.
I'm going to go with between, I think, the Bills and the Raiders for me. But let's go Raiders here just because it's kind of an interesting spot. Vikings, I think everyone's hyped. Justin Jefferson looks like he's going to make his return. Dobbs will have him for the first time. But you're talking about a team on the road laying 3 points that was thinking about benching its quarterback during
expiration
the
date.
Right. So and on the other side, I like what I've seen out of Antonio Pierce. I mean, his 2 losses are to the Dolphins and the Chiefs. Not really anything to be ashamed of there. I think that coaching staff has made some positive changes, getting the right guys on the field. Getting Renfro back involved in the offense. I think they're a little hard-nosed, physical, more gritty. Max Crosby was like the same week Slayton did it. So 2 guys played through doubtful tags a couple weeks ago for the first time in ages that's happened. So I do think the Raiders, they're without McDaniel, they have enough talent.
They're feisty.
O'Connor wasn't terrible. Exactly. Like these are 2 mediocre teams, and one of them, because they've been on a little bit more of a streak, is weighing 3 on the road. I cannot get there. So same thing for the money line plus 130. I'm going with the Vegas Raiders. Parlay those 2 together. Cincy minus 105 and the Raiders plus 130. You get parlay odds of plus 349. So about 3.5 to 1 payout on those. Now it's time for the best of the rest, games we haven't covered in any other segment, but are still, as they say, meaningful to some. All right, first up, we got Denver going to SoFi take on the Los Angeles Chargers. Chargers favored by 3. The total is 44. I am pretty much in line with the market on this. Chargers in a spot like this, 3 is usually the perfect spread because it's either gonna land exactly on 3, or they're gonna find a way to lose by 3 or win by 3. It's usually how it goes in these games, unless sometimes wonkiness will happen with Staley going for 2 or something like that. But I think this line is about right. I would love to fade Denver. You mentioned last week they've been one of the luckiest teams in the league, and almost got lucky again. If they can get that pass in the end zone and not throw it up to Lucas Krull, they might sneak out of Houston with a win, but it didn't come to fruition. But I'm in line with the market on this one. What do you think?
Yeah, I lean Chargers. I want to fade the Broncos. I like some of the changes that Staley's made recently on defense. I mean, look, I know that they shut out the Pats, but they were fairly feisty against Baltimore. Made some changes in the secondary, some schematic changes. I'm going to see what that looks like again this week. But they don't run the ideal defense to play, to just completely take away Russell Wilson. And then I'm worried about a couple matchup things. Like Denver should be able to run it on them, and that kind of sets everything else up. And then if you just have Surtain take away Keenan Allen, what do the Chargers have left, right? So lean Chargers, but then there's also not a big home field. There's like no home field advantage, and especially in a division game. So pass.
Yeah, the Chargers. I've noticed that too. The Chargers defense has been a little better. They made some changes in it, like you said, in the secondary. They switched out Taylor and Michael Davis. I think they benched as well. Yeah. But at the same time, the Chargers defense has kind of gotten fat off the Jets and the Patriots, and anytime they played anyone competent, which I mean Denver might not be, but they're in a different tier than the Patriots and Jets. It's been problematic. So I just don't know enough. I kind of, like you said, just interested to see what happens, but tough game to cap any differently from the market, and just giving them the 3 and I think it's fair price. That. Yeah. And then the big one, we have the Eagles at the Cowboys. Cowboys at BetMGM are -3, -125. They are -3.5 at many other spots. The total is 52. Eagles still one of the 2 luckiest teams in the league, along with the Pittsburgh Steelers. I lean Dallas here. They've been a lot better. Dallas has been a lot better at home. It's a revenge spot, and the Eagles could talk all they want to talk. They could sign all the Shaq Leonards they want to sign, but I still think this Eagle team has some flaws, and that's what we're kind of seeing. We finally saw it come out against the 49ers. So I'd lean Cowboys there, but don't love laying 3 and the hook. Eagles still have that voodoo. But what are you thinking?
Yeah, I like Dallas. I want to play Dallas here. I didn't want to lay it either. I moneyline Dallas with the Dolphins. I think the Dolphins are a free piece on Monday night. But yeah, look, you could get Dallas Goedert back, which would help. But how will this game go any differently for the Dallas offense than it did in the first time around? I don't see how Dallas should just move the ball at will with their tight ends, with CeeDee Lamb in the slot. CeeDee Lamb could have 200 yards. Now you're on a fast track, perfect weather where Dallas' offense has just been humming. I don't see how this Philly's going to put up its points. But look, the Dallas offensive line can handle the Eagles' defensive line, as we saw in the first meeting. And then the Philly can't cover them. So I think the Dallas defense will make a few more plays. The Eagles' offense is still out of rhythm. And I think what puts it over the top for me, and by the way, the Eagles, what they got last week, they were outgained by 123 yards again. This is a 5th straight game. They've been outgained by 100+ yards. 10-2 team with a +40 point differential. This team should be closer to 8-5, 8-4, even 7-5 than 10-2. But the other thing is the spot. You mentioned the revenge. Dallas extended rest. Last played on Thursday night. The Eagles have played the Cowboys in a thriller. Then they had their bye week. But huge game. Chiefs get their Super Bowl revenge. Short week, Bills OT. Next week, 49ers playoff rematch. That's just big game after big game after big game after big game. And Dallas has had a lot of blowouts, and they're going to be much more well-rested, and they also have just a couple more days to prepare and rest for this. So great spot for Dallas. I make it right around 3.5. So don't love laying 3.5. If you want to look for it live, look at this game, by the way. Total of 52.5. Looks like an alien this season. I actually lean over, but I'm close to market there. I make it 52, but I think I just might be low because the scoring environment's sad. I don't see how there's many stops in this game unless Dallas just vomits on itself like it did in the first meeting in the red zone. But yeah, I think Dallas wins. I think Dallas is the side. I moneylined it with Miami.
Yeah, I mean, at that, I might just moneyline it. Just, I mean, I agree. I think Miami is probably a free piece, but I don't actually mind the money line. Just taking it straight up here. But look at the Eagles, and the only thing with the total, because I was thinking over too, but I know Philadelphia did mention they want to get back to the run, and that's kind of code for we need to shorten the game, because if you look at Philly's defense, you mentioned they got outgained by 100+ yards, but look at the yardage totals. So Philadelphia, starting in week 8, they play the Commanders. They give up 472 total yards. Then they play the Cowboys, 406. Chiefs, 336. Bills, 505. Niners, 456. Eagles are giving up over 400 yards of offense on average over their past 5 games. So I am pretty sure that the Eagles are going to try their darndest to go on those patented 18 play drives that end with the tush push and try to shorten the game. That doesn't mean Dallas won't win. I still think Dallas is a better team. I still think Dallas, the Dallas offense versus the Philly defense is a bigger edge than it's not an edge for Philly, going against the Dallas defense. That's a very good defense. So still think Dallas has the edge, but yeah, could see the game shortened. So that would be my only concern.
Yeah,
but yeah,
that's
Philadelphia's
and it's a super high number.
Yardage.
You can't have anything go wrong.
Yeah, right. And Philadelphia's just bleeding yardage, and it ended up 51 last time. Should have been over last time, but the first one was probably the over game. Although Dallas fast track, it probably will come down to who gets the ball first. You could maybe
couple red zone. Is there a red zone field goal or touchdown?
Yeah, weirdness. But overall, I'm sure both teams are going to go for it, and instead of kicking field goals too, because I mean, look at these offense, especially Dallas. So yeah, that's how I'm feeling. But yeah, I might be on Dallas in some way somehow, because I still think Philadelphia has a ways to drop. Still,
Agreed.
like they are, like you said, what is it? Yeah, their Pythagorean win total is 6.9, so it's essentially 7.
They're even lower.
7-5. Yeah, 7-5. They're a 7-5 team, and again, for all the Philly fans, not knocking them, you can stack wins and get that home field. More power to you, but it's looking iffy right now after you dropped one to the Niners, and I think that's kind of just that's the quality of the team right now. They haven't been dominant like last year. Philadelphia was pretty elite, and they gave the Chiefs a run for their money. And,
yeah, they could still get there. And look, Eagles fans shouldn't care. The only goal in the regular season, get your wins, get the 1 seed, and then be healthy for the playoffs. And they're one of the 6 teams that can win it. 7 if the Bills get in. So, but I think that they lose this game.
And the Eagles have a nice little stretch coming up. They have one more
end the year. They should
one.
Get healthy.
Yeah, they have one more tough one, going to the Seahawks, who are, like you said, probably going to need this game. So you're going to go, into Seattle and probably deal with a Seattle team that might be playing for its season. But then you get the Giants in week 16, the Cardinals in week 17, and both of those are at home. And then you get to go to MetLife in week 18. And the Giants will probably be tanking. Maybe you might not even have to play your starters in that game. So yeah, there'll be time for Philly to get right. But that's going to do it for us on the week 14 Action Network podcast. You can hear more of me with my guy Kerner this week, talking fantasy, DFS, all that good stuff on the Fantasy Flex Pod. Check out the Action Network Discord server as well. Link in the episode description. And Stuck, of course, will be talking college football over on Big Bets on Campus podcast Friday morning. You can find Stuck on X at Stucky2. I'm at Chris Raybon. We're at those same handles on a free award-winning Action Network app. Until next time, let's get this money.
Go.